From shocking courtroom surprises to profound remorse, the experiences of some of the world's oldest people, as they react to prison sentences, paint a captivating tapestry of crime, justice, and the human condition. These remarkable stories offer a unique glimpse into the criminal justice system's struggle to balance punishment, compassion, and the challenges posed by aging individuals. Marcusen. In February 2015, Marcusen, a retired PE teacher, faced the consequences of his heinous crimes when he received a 9-year prison sentence at the age of 91. He remained unmoved in the dock as a judge sentenced him to 9 years in prison at Birmingham Crown Court. Marcusen's crimes were of a profoundly disturbing nature, as he had sexually abused schoolboys between 1957 and 1978. His actions left a harrowing trail of trauma and suffering among his victims. The Birmingham Crown Court found him guilty of 25 counts of indecent assault on boys, and the judge presiding over the case, Judge Nicholas Webb, characterized his offenses as being tinged with sadism. The abuse occurred during and after PE lessons and took place within the confines of a swimming club known as the Square Club in Wheelie Castle, Birmingham. Marcusen's methods were not only emotionally scarring but also physically abusive, as he employed a whalebone as a weapon to strike and intimidate his victims. Furthermore, he subjected the pupils to humiliation by making them stand on chairs after showering, ostensibly to check if they were dry, but in reality, to facilitate further abuse. The consequences of Marcusen's actions were dire, with some victims enduring severe psychological trauma. At least one survivor attempted suicide, and another faced caning by a headmaster after daring to report the sexual abuse. Despite his advanced age and physical frailty at the time of sentencing, Judge Webb emphasized that Marcusen's crimes had inflicted lifelong suffering on his victims. The defense counsel, Sharon Bailey, argued for leniency, highlighting the weight that a custodial sentence would carry for someone of Marcusen's age, noting that he would be the oldest person to be sentenced to custody for the first time. Amanda Rice Stevenson. Amanda Rice Stevenson's reaction to her prison sentence remains a striking and memorable aspect of her unique legal case. At the time of her legal proceedings, Amanda was 96 years old, making her one of the oldest individuals ever to face a murder charge in Florida. Her reaction to the charges and subsequent legal proceedings revealed the challenges posed by her advanced age. Amanda Rice Stevenson was charged with the murder of her 53-year-old nephew, Johnny Rice, in St. Augustine, Florida. The crime involved the alleged use of a .357 handgun, which resulted in the tragic death of Johnny Rice. Notably, Amanda's nephew had expressed fear of her, adding a chilling dimension to the case. Throughout the legal process, Amanda's reaction garnered attention, primarily due to her advanced age and physical condition. She was reported to be wheelchair-bound during her court appearances, which was a significant factor to consider in her case. Her age and physical limitations raised questions about her ability to fully comprehend and participate in the legal proceedings. Additionally, Amanda's mental health came under scrutiny during the legal proceedings. Concerns were raised about the possibility of dementia, which prompted evaluations to assess her competency to stand trial. This aspect further emphasized the complexities involved in prosecuting elderly individuals facing serious criminal charges. Amanda's reaction suggested that she faced the legal process with a certain degree of vulnerability due to her age and physical condition. The circumstances surrounding her case underscored the need for the legal system to adapt to accommodate elderly defendants appropriately. Amanda Rice Stevenson's reaction to her prison sentence highlighted the unique challenges posed by her advanced age and physical condition during her legal proceedings. While not explicitly detailed in the available information, her case underscored the importance of considering the vulnerabilities of elderly defendants within the criminal justice system. Moreover, across different jurisdictions, elderly individuals have faced legal consequences for a variety of offenses, emphasizing the need for a tailored and compassionate approach to justice for older defendants. Bihari Pande. Bihari Pande's extraordinary journey through the criminal justice system and his eventual release at the age of 108 bring to light a remarkable and thought-provoking case. His reaction to his prison sentence, his age at the time of sentencing, and the nature of his conviction illustrate the intersection of age, crime, and incarceration. Bihari Pande's case was particularly unique due to his reaction to the life sentence he received for his involvement in a murder case. At the time of his conviction in 2009, he was already 106 years old. This fact alone set him apart as one of the oldest individuals to face such a severe punishment within the criminal justice system. The prospect of a life sentence seemed particularly daunting given his advanced age. The crime for which Pande was convicted had its roots in a violent dispute. In 1987, he was arrested, along with 15 other individuals, including family members, for their involvement in the murder of 4 people. This violent incident was fueled by a dispute over the inheritance of a Hindu religious institution. Although Pande was 84 years old when the crime crimes were committed. The legal proceedings surrounding the case spanned over 2 decades, culminating in his life imprisonment in 2009. Pande's sentencing brought attention to the complexities of managing elderly prisoners, especially those convicted of violent offenses. His health rapidly deteriorated during his incarceration, resulting in extended stays in the prison hospital. This situation posed logistical and humanitarian challenges, prompting prison authorities to take action. His release on bail in 2011 was primarily based on humanitarian grounds and his age-related infirmities. Bihari Pande's reaction to his prison sentence, his age at the time of sentencing, and the violent nature of his conviction all contribute to a thought-provoking case study. His release on humanitarian grounds serves as a reminder that the criminal justice system must adapt to address the complexities of managing elderly prisoners and provide appropriate care for those facing severe sentences. Lucille Keen. Lucille Keen's reaction to her prison sentence was one of shock and regret. She was convicted of first-degree assault after shooting and seriously wounding her male companion, Stephen Bart Flesh, in 2002. Keen had nursed Flesh back to health after her heart attack and had financially supported him. However, their relationship soured over time, leading to the tragic incident. At the time of her sentencing, Keen was already 88 years old, and she was subsequently sentenced to 7 years in prison, an extraordinary decision given her age and the nature of her crime. Her sentence raised questions about the appropriateness of incarcerating elderly individuals, particularly for non-violent offenses. Lucille Keen's crime was not a white-collar offense, but rather an act of violence, albeit under unique circumstances. She used a .38 caliber handgun to shoot Fleshy in the back while he was about to preside over a religious ceremony. Her defense claimed that she had been attacked as well, but she was ultimately found guilty of first-degree assault. Keen's case also highlighted the issue of whether elderly prisoners should receive special consideration due to their age and health. Her time in prison was characterized by medical issues, including high blood pressure, tremors, brittle bones, and the need for extensive dental work. Despite her age and fragile health, Keen was not granted an early release. In contrast to the prevailing norms of parole eligibility, Keen's sentence followed the older guidelines, which meant that she faced a prolonged period of incarceration. Her case underscored the need for reforms in the criminal justice system to address the unique challenges posed by elderly inmates. Lucille Keen's story is one of an elderly individual who, at the age of 88, was sentenced to prison for a violent offense. Her case drew attention to the complexities of sentencing elderly offenders and raised questions about whether the justice system should consider their age and health when determining punishment. Her long journey through the legal system serves as a powerful reminder of the need for thoughtful reforms in the criminal justice system to address the specific needs of elderly inmates. Buns. John Buns, a 90-year-old man, stood in court, leaning on a walker, his eyes blackened and his neck bruised. He was accused of a horrifying crime, the murder of his wife, Virginia Buns, whom he had been married to for 67 years. John Buns battered Virginia 30 times on the head and arms with a hammer following a row at the retirement village flat they shared in Amherst, New York. Silent and clad in orange jail attire, John Buns offered no words as his lawyer waived his right to a felony hearing in the case of 89-year-old Virginia's death. The charges against him were grave, as he faced an accusation of second-degree murder. The tragic incident unfolded in their retirement village apartment in Amherst, a serene Buffalo suburb. Virginia's lifeless body was discovered, leading to John Buns's arrest. John was found with injuries described as self-inflicted, and he had been briefly hospitalized following the discovery. The timeline of the crime was chilling. Police estimated that Virginia had been killed sometime between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. on that fateful day. Despite the extensive investigation, no clear motive for the crime had been unveiled, and details of what transpired between the elderly couple that morning remained elusive. One critical point emphasized in the case was the absence of any indication of a suicide pact or mercy killing. Law enforcement and prosecutors treated it as a domestic homicide, leaving many questions unanswered. As for John Buns's sentencing, it occurred on a Wednesday, with a verdict that would significantly impact his life. He was sentenced to 17 and a half years behind bars. On the day of sentencing, he stumbled on his way into the Buffalo court and was assisted to his chair by deputies. It was revealed that Buns had pleaded guilty in July to first-degree manslaughter. Originally facing the more serious charge of second-degree murder, prosecutors had agreed to the plea deal primarily due to his advanced age. The chilling admission came to light during his plea, where he confessed to hitting his wife, 89-year-old Virginia Buns, approximately 30 times with a hammer. This violent act occurred during a heated argument in March inside the retirement village apartment they had shared in the suburb of Amherst. John Buns's life took a dark turn as he faced the consequences of his actions. The sentencing of 17 and a half years for first-degree manslaughter marked the culmination of a tragic story that began with the brutal killing of his wife, Virginia. John Sonny Franzese Sr. John "Sonny" Francese Sr., a notorious figure in the world of organized crime, had a notable reaction to his various prison sentences throughout his long criminal career. His resilience, at times, served as a testament to his unwavering commitment to the criminal lifestyle he had embraced. Francese's journey through the criminal justice system was marked by multiple brushes with the law, and it's worth noting that these encounters occurred at different stages of his life. He faced sentences in various jurisdictions for a range of crimes, spanning both violent and white-collar offenses. In the mid-1960s, at the age of 47, Francese was indicted on murder charges related to the death of a rival, a case that drew considerable attention. His reaction during this period reflected his tenacity as he faced these accusations, but ultimately managed to avoid a murder conviction. However, his legal troubles persisted. In 1967, at the age of 50, Francese received a 50-year sentence for bank robbery. This sentence came after his role in various criminal activities, including extortion, had attracted law enforcement's attention. Despite his initial parole in 1978, his return to prison became a recurring theme, with at least 6 parole violations over the years. Francese's crimes included violent acts such as murder and extortion, as well as white-collar offenses such as bank robbery and extortion. His willingness to engage in discussions about mob murder techniques, including using nail polish to evade fingerprint detection, underscored the ruthlessness of his criminal activities. In 2011, Francese was sentenced to 8 years in prison for crimes related to extorting businesses, including strip clubs and a pizzeria, signaling a continuation of his criminal behavior even in his later years. His son, John Francese Jr., played a pivotal role in his prosecution, becoming the first son of a New York mobster to turn state's evidence and testify against his own father. Throughout his life, John "Sonny" Francese Sr. remained unapologetic about his involvement in organized crime. His story is a complex one, marked by a dogged commitment to the criminal underworld and a willingness to navigate the legal system, making him a lasting figure in the annals of American organized crime history. Theodore Sneer. Theodore A. Sneer, New York State's oldest registered sex offender, has faced a series of legal troubles throughout his life, with the most recent incident leading to his return to prison. Sneer's case is notable not only for his age, but also for the persistence of his criminal behavior. Sneer's legal woes began in 1987 when he was convicted of sex abuse, resulting in 3 years of probation. He continued to engage in criminal activities and, in 1994, was sentenced to a year in prison for sexually assaulting a minor. However, it wasn't until he reached the age of 90 in 2000 that he faced his most significant conviction. At that time, Sneer was found guilty of assaulting 2 young sisters in Tonawanda, New York. This conviction marked a turning point in his criminal history, as it led to his designation as New York's oldest registered sex offender. He was initially convicted on multiple charges, including 2 counts of rape, 15 counts of sodomy, and endangering the welfare of a child. Sneer's reaction to his 2000 conviction was a plea of guilty, though he later claimed confusion, which resulted in an appeal and another plea in 2003 to a lesser charge. Despite the severity of his crimes, Sneer's advanced age garnered some sympathy, and he received a sentence of as many as 10 years in prison. State Supreme Court Justice Penny Wolfgang, who presided over his case, expressed her expectation that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Despite these convictions and sentences, Sneer's criminal tendencies persisted. He was released on parole in 2007, but was sent back to prison in 2008 for failing to attend sex offender counseling. This pattern of non-compliance continued in his recent stint outside of prison when he refused to participate in mandated sex offender counseling, resulting in his parole violation and subsequent return to incarceration. Sneer's case is an unsettling reminder that certain individuals like him may not be deterred by age or previous convictions. Authorities view these individuals as deeply entrenched in their criminal behavior, comparing them to vampires who are unlikely to stop their actions until they are no longer able. Sneer's story illustrates the challenges faced in dealing with repeat offenders and the need for vigilant monitoring and enforcement of parole conditions, even in cases involving elderly individuals. Ralph Clark. When Ralph Clark was sentenced to 16 years in prison in 2016, he was 101 years old. Despite his age and physical fragility, he displayed no remorse for his actions during the trial. This lack of remorse was noted by Judge Richard Bond, QC, who presided over his case. Clark's stoic response to his sentence reflects the complexity of dealing with elderly individuals convicted of serious crimes. Ralph Clark's case is characterized by his advanced age at the time of sentencing. In 2016, when he received his 16-year prison term, he was 101 31 years old. His age at both the time of the crimes and sentencing is an extraordinary aspect of his case, highlighting the challenges faced by the legal system in managing elderly inmates. Ralph Clark was sentenced in an English court. His trial and subsequent imprisonment took place in the United Kingdom. The jurisdiction of the UK legal system underscores the global significance of his case, as he became one of the oldest individuals to stand trial and serve time in a British prison. Clark's crimes were of a highly serious nature. He was found guilty of historic sex offenses committed during the 1970s and 1980s. The charges included 17 offenses of indecent assault, 11 offenses of indecency with a child, and 2 attempted serious sexual assaults. These offenses constitute grave violations and fall under the category of sexual crimes. Ralph Clark received a 16-year prison sentence for his convictions related to historic sex offenses. This lengthy sentence was in line with the gravity of the crimes he had committed. The court's decision to impose a substantial prison term on an elderly individual reflects the commitment to ensuring justice for victims and holding offenders accountable, regardless of age. Ralph Clark's case is remarkable due to his advanced age at the time of sentencing, the serious nature of the sexual crimes he committed, and the substantial prison sentence he received. His stoic reaction to his sentence underscores the complexities surrounding elderly inmates within the criminal justice system, while his case serves as a unique example of the pursuit of justice in the face of challenging circumstances. Donaldlinicom. Donaldlinicom displayed remorse during his sentencing, expressing sorrow for his actions and hope for forgiveness from his victim. While he admitted to his wrongdoing, his remorse did not prevent the court from imposing a substantial prison sentence. At the time of his sentencing, Donaldlinicom was 84 years old. His age is a significant factor in his case, as it reflects the unique circumstances surrounding the prosecution and sentencing of elderly individuals involved in criminal activities. Donaldlinicom's case was tried in Wooster, Ohio, under the jurisdiction of Wayne County Common Pleas Court. The legal proceedings took place within the United States, highlighting the domestic nature of his trial. Lincecum was convicted of sex offenses against a young boy. His charges included 5 counts of rape and 2 counts of gross sexual imposition. These crimes fall within the category of sexual offenses and are considered serious due to their impact on the victim. As a result of his convictions, Donaldlinicom received a 10-year prison sentence for each of the 5 rape charges, to be served concurrently. Additionally, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for each of the 2 gross sexual imposition charges, also to be served concurrently. This cumulative sentence amounted to a total of 10 years in prison. Donaldlinicom's case is notable due to his age at the time of sentencing, the jurisdiction where he was tried, and the serious nature of his sexual offenses against a young boy. Despite expressing remorse, Lincecum received a substantial prison sentence, reflecting the gravity of his crimes and the commitment to justice, regardless of an offender's age. John Paxton. At the time of his sentencing, John Paxton was 88 years old, signifying the advanced stage of life he had reached. This factor is significant because it draws attention to the unique challenges and considerations that arise when dealing with elderly individuals involved in criminal activities. During the sentencing hearing, Paxton displayed a degree of remorse for the tragic events that transpired. His expression of sorrow and acknowledgement of wrongdoing did not ultimately spare him from a substantial prison sentence. The legal proceedings in Paxton's case took place in Akron, Ohio, under the jurisdiction of Summit County. This emphasizes that the case unfolded within the United States, subject to the local laws and regulations governing such matters. Paxton pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, a grave offense related to the death of his wife, Betty J. Harrison Paxton. This crime, although not explicitly categorized in the provided information, falls under the umbrella of violent offenses due to its fatal outcome. In light of his guilty plea and the seriousness of the crime, John Paxton received a 13-year prison sentence. This sentence underscores the gravity of his actions and serves as a testament to the commitment to delivering justice, even when the offender is an elderly individual. David Tilley. David C. Tilley, an 83-year-old resident of Guysville, Ohio, faced a deeply emotional and heart-wrenching situation when he pleaded guilty to murder in Athens County Common Pleas Court. The case revolved around the tragic killing of his 46-year-old wife, Hope A. Tilley, whom he shot in the head while she slept. In court, Tilley expressed that he had acted upon his wife's request, believing that he was freeing her from a future filled with unbearable suffering. His statement, read by his attorney Dennis W. McNamara, conveyed his profound sense of peace with his actions, driven by what he perceived as an act act of mercy. Despite the emotional nature of the proceedings, Tilly understood the legal implications of his plea, which was entered as part of a plea bargain. In this arrangement, he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of murder instead of facing the more severe charge of aggravated murder. The judge, Michael Ward, subsequently sentenced him to 15 years to life in prison, with an additional 3 years added for the use of a firearm. This sentence was mandatory under Ohio law, allowing no room for judicial discretion. Tilly's reaction to the sentence was a poignant reflection of the complex ethical and moral dimensions surrounding this case. While he acknowledged the inevitable length of his incarceration and the lifelong post-release control, he maintained an understanding of the legal processes. The crimes committed by David Tilly were undeniably grave. He took his wife's life with a firearm, an act constituting murder under Ohio law. What distinguishes this case from other murder convictions is the context in which the act occurred. Tilly asserted that his actions were guided by his wife's wishes to be released from what she perceived as unbearable suffering, a plea that he felt compelled to honor. In this sense, it was a unique case that raised profound ethical questions about the boundaries of compassion, the right to die with dignity, and the role of the justice system in such circumstances. Albert Moore. In a quiet courtroom in Warren County, Ohio, an 83-year-old man named Albert Moore received a sentence that would forever alter the course of his life. Moore, with a solemn expression on his face, stood before the judge, awaiting the judgment for the crimes he had committed. The sentence? 15 years in prison. Moore's crimes were of the most harrowing nature: 2 counts of rape and 1 count of gross sexual imposition. What made these offenses even more chilling was that they involved 3 young victims, all under the age of 13. These were crimes that would leave a lasting scar on the lives of those affected. The legal process that led to this sentencing was set in motion when a Warren County grand jury returned a 7-count indictment against Moore on June 29, 2012. The offenses dated back to the year 1984 and continued through to 2008, spanning decades of pain and suffering for the victims. Though the charges were not classified as violent in the conventional sense, the emotional and psychological violence inflicted upon the victims was immeasurable. Crimes of a sexual nature, especially those involving minors, carry a profound weight and result in severe legal consequences. As Albert Moore received his sentence, the courtroom held its collective breath. While the provided information does not detail Moore's reaction, one can imagine the complex swirl of emotions an 83-year-old man would experience when facing a lengthy prison term. Perhaps it was a moment of deep reflection, regret, or even resignation. Albert Moore's case serves as a stark reminder of the necessity of holding those who commit such grave offenses accountable for their actions, no matter how much time has passed. It also underscores the importance of safeguarding vulnerable individuals, particularly children, from harm and ensuring that justice is served. Roy Delph. In a small town in the east of England, an 88-year-old pensioner named Roy Delph found himself caught in a bewildering and deeply distressing situation. As he stood before the judge, facing the grim reality of a prison sentence, his reaction was one of shock and disbelief. It was a reaction shared by his family, friends, and those who had taken up his cause, advocating for his release. Roy, at 88 years old, stood as a frail and vulnerable figure in the courtroom. He relied on a walking stick for support, battled heart problems, and grappled with hearing difficulties. His age, marked by fragility and health issues, made the circumstances of his sentencing all the more extraordinary. The jurisdiction overseeing Roy's case was Norwich Crown Court, where he was handed a 2-year prison term for a most unexpected crime, possessing a loaded shotgun. He had pleaded guilty to this charge, steadfastly maintaining that the firearm was intended for shooting vermin and held no intent to threaten or harm anyone. However, the chain of events leading to Roy Delph's arrest was far from typical criminal behavior. Instead, it was marked by a disturbing pattern of harassment, vandalism, and cruelty directed towards him. Local youths relentlessly tormented him, vandalizing his property and, tragically, even killing his beloved pet cat. Feeling trapped and fearful, Roy reached out to the police for help. It was during this interaction that the antique shotgun was discovered in his car, resulting in his arrest. Roy's case did not involve violent crimes, white-collar offenses, or any premeditated intent to harm others. Instead, it underscored the tragic consequences of an elderly man's vulnerability in the face of relentless harassment and intimidation by local troublemakers. The shock and disbelief that filled the courtroom when Roy received his sentence were echoed throughout the community. His age, his pristine record with no prior convictions, and the fact that he posed no immediate threat to public safety all contributed to the widespread questioning of the justice system's handling of his case. His case sparked public outcry and impassioned petitions, with many advocating for a reconsideration of his punishment, emphasizing the disproportionate nature of his 2-year prison sentence given the circumstances. Jack McCulla. Jack McCulla's harrowing journey through the criminal justice system began when he was wrongfully convicted of the 1957 kidnapping and murder of 7-year-old Maria Ridolph. McCulla, a military veteran, found himself facing a life sentence for a crime he did not commit. His reaction to the sentencing was one of shock and disbelief, as spectators in the courtroom cheered upon his conviction in 2012. At the time of his conviction, McCulla was 73 years old, adding to the gravity of the injustice he faced. The case took place in Sycamore, Illinois, and it would become one of the coldest murder cases ever tried in the United States. Maria Ridolph's abduction and subsequent murder had gone unsolved for over half a century until McCulla was arrested in 2011, nearly 54 years after the tragic event occurred. McCulla's conviction was largely based on the identification made by Maria's playmate, who pointed to an old photo of McCulla as the man who had approached them on that fateful day in 1957. At the time of the crime, McCulla was a 17-year-old Sycamore resident named John Tessier. His family lived just 2 blocks from the street corner where Maria was last seen. In the courtroom, McCulla maintained his innocence, asserting that FBI documents had been ruled inadmissible at trial, documents that could have exonerated him. He vehemently denied responsibility for the murder and kidnapping. The case became a legal roller coaster, marked by twists and turns.
I've been accused and convicted of a murder I did not commit.
However, in 2016, Judge William Brady overturned McCulla's conviction and ordered his release.
And this new information is information that the trial court did not have available to consider when it's made its ruling.
This decision left the door open for a new prosecutor to refile charges against him. Ultimately, it was a significant moment for McCulla, as he sought not only to clear his name, but also to seek compensation for the 5 years he spent wrongfully imprisoned. Viva Leroy Nash. Viva Leroy Nash's life was a relentless journey through the criminal justice system, marked by a series of incarcerations and brushes with the law. His reactions to his prison sentences were rarely disclosed, but his actions spoke volumes about his resistance to confinement. Nash's tumultuous relationship with the law began at a tender age when, in 1930, he found himself behind bars at just 15 years old, convicted of armed robbery. This early entanglement with the legal system set the stage for a lifetime of criminal pursuits. One of the most infamous chapters in Nash's criminal history unfolded in 1947, when, at the age of 32, he committed a grave offense by shooting a Connecticut police officer. This act resulted in a lengthy prison sentence of 25 years, signaling a propensity for violence in his criminal endeavors. In 1977, Nash, now 62, received 2 consecutive life sentences for a robbery and murder in Salt Lake City. The crimes for which he was convicted involved not only theft, but also the taking of another human life. However, Nash's criminal journey took an even darker turn in 1982, when at the age of 67, he managed to escape from a prison work crew. Following his escape, he ventured into a coin shop in Phoenix, Arizona, demanding money from an employee. Tragically, this encounter escalated into violence, as Nash shot the employee, Gregory West, 3 times, ultimately leading to West's death. Nash's conviction on charges of first-degree murder, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and theft in this case sealed his fate. In 1983, he was sentenced to death. Throughout his criminal life, Nash was consistently associated with violent offenses, including the shooting of a police officer and the murder of a coin shop employee. These actions not only resulted in his repeated incarcerations, but also led to his placement on death row, where he held the dubious distinction of being the oldest death row inmate in the United States, until his eventual passing from natural causes at the age of 94. In the realm of justice and aging, these tales of resilience and remorse leave us pondering the intricate intersection of time, crime, and the enduring pursuit of balance. The lives of the oldest individuals facing prison sentences, their stories continue to beckon contemplation and debate. Discover more captivating stories and insights by clicking the card on your screen for additional content on a range of thought-provoking topics.